It is Monday, October 5th, 2015. I am Doug Neill, and this is Verbal to Visual Video. Today is the first day in about a week that we have been here at the desk. It feels good to be back, and I'm excited to share with you a more in-depth version of an idea that has come up in past videos. This idea of using visuals as an anchor to the ideas that you are capturing. Let's get into that. One of the things that I like about visual note-taking is that a single drawn object can act as a trigger to a whole set of ideas or an entire story related to that single object. And that's what I mean when I use that language of visuals being an anchor to a set of ideas or an anchor to a conversation. Let's now, for the first time, actually draw out that anchor so that you have a solid visual in your mind to remind you of this idea. So let's break down this scene that you see here, starting with the anchor. When you are taking your visual notes, the anchor is something as simple as a single drawn object. That drawn object has some connection to the ideas being shared or the story that is being told. When you add to that single drawn object a few additional words for context, that becomes the link to the entire set of ideas that that object represents. And even though I've drawn multiple objects here, an anchor plus the tether that makes it to the entire ship, when you're taking visual notes, you really only need a single object. That is the minimum amount that can help you to trigger the larger set of ideas, so long as that object is a meaningful one that has an important role in that set of ideas or in that story that's being told. So, I hope that this simple image reminds you that there is power in a single object to trigger other ideas. That one simple object can be an anchor to an entire set of ideas when that drawn object has a particular meaning to those ideas. Let's also look at a few examples to see how I have used this in some notes that I have taken in the past. Example number one comes from Stephen King's book on writing, which, if you're a writer or are interested in writing, this is a great read. Here are some notes that I took from an early section in the book. And the thing that I want to point out right now is this idea right here. The idea that you write your first draft with the door closed and you rewrite the second draft and third and fourth with the door open. So here the single object that I'm using as an anchor is a simple door, in one case closed and in one case opened, with a few words surrounding it that remind me of this idea of Stephen King's, that when you are first getting your initial draft down, you don't yet want the voices of outsiders influencing the writing process. The most important thing in the beginning is getting those ideas down. Once they are down, once you have gotten them out of your head in that safe, closed door environment, then when you go to rewrite it, it's best to open the door so that you are also thinking about how others will receive and interpret those ideas. So here in this second stage, it's less about you getting the ideas down on paper and more about you shaping them into a form that will be received by those you hope will read those words. So all of that comes from this single or pair of objects of a closed door and an open door and a few words surrounding them. For a second example, I'm going to share an idea from Leo Babauta's kickstarted book, Zen Habits. The idea that I want to focus on here is this one in the upper right. We have a shoe with the words, "Just lace up your shoes." So a drawn shoe with the words, "Just lace up your shoes." The idea here is that when forming a new habit, pick the smallest thing that you can do to get that habit in motion. In this case, the example is running, starting a running habit, which does resonate with me because I like to run. I consider myself a runner. And the idea here is that don't think about the entire energy that it will take to go on an entire run, but think instead about the smallest first thing that you can do, which in this case is just lace up your shoes. That's the first step, the smallest thing that you can do to get moving, which also happens to be connected to these other ideas on this side page here related to a minimum viable habit. But mostly it's that image of a single shoe being laced up that is an anchor to this whole set of ideas around habit forming and the smallest thing that you can do to get those habits off the ground and running. For this habit of mine of creating these daily videos, my smallest step, my version of lacing up my shoes, is clearing off this table in the morning if there's anything on it, getting a piece of paper out and starting to jot down ideas. Here is what it looks like for today. You might recognize some of those images. So my hope is that those two examples with that initial first visual metaphor of an anchor that can trigger another set of ideas, I hope that you found that useful and that it shows that there is still power in simplicity within your visual notes. You don't have to sketch out a whole entire scene with many different elements and all these fancy visual things. That even drawing single objects can be really helpful to the brain for triggering the ideas surrounding that object. So give that a try the next time you are taking some visual notes. Keep an ear out for individual objects that have the most connections to the overall set of ideas that you are taking in. Let me know how it goes too. Thank you for watching, and I will see you tomorrow.